That's the thing. People will try to create a debate or some kind of deeper conversation in the comment section, when my thing is we need to be taking these conversations outside of social media.
Where did God come from? So God just was? Oh, where are angels? What is eternity? You know, those types of questions are questions that, unfortunately, we will probably never find an answer to at all.
Our brains are not wired for these 30-second, watered down, short TikTok responses. We're meant to like sit in nature and think about why beauty exists and why goodness exists and what all of it means and what you mean and your place in the world. Hey, homebodies! Welcome back to the Introvert City podcast, where we discuss culture, media, and faith from the perspective of an introvert's complex mind. I'm Carina.
And I'm Seth.
And notice how you tried to mess me up in the intro by saying hey instead of hey, homebodies, and I still effortlessly
Yikes.
I still gave a perfect introduction. How are you guys doing today? I'm great. Thanks for asking. How are you, Seth?
Oh, wow. I thought we were letting them answer.
They had time. And how are you?
I'm great.
Guys, Seth looks like a business manager today, and I'm digging it. You said it was Preston inspired again?
It was Preston inspired, but also me inspired.
One thing I love about Seth is his fashion.
Yes.
He always pulls up
I like my
and
fashion.
like it's very you and creative. And sometimes I critique it, and I'm sorry, but like 99% you're always dressed like more artsy than me.
Yes. I do like to wear nice clothing. It is a big part of my personality nowadays. Not that I like to. I wasn't always well dressed, and I've talked about this in other episodes. But I like to make sure that I look good when I go out, and I like to make decisions. Experimental
You're
decisions
either
sometimes.
in super artsy outfit or sweatpants.
Yeah. But I try though to style my sweatpants. Even try my best, but sometimes it's just like I'll throw on whatever.
Right.
If it's like we're just watching.
Would you
a movie.
say that you ponder your outfits? Do you think deeply about what you're going to wear?
Where is this going?
Do you catch my drift?
I think so.
Guys, I'm trying to segue into today's topic.
I do ponder my outfits. Sometimes I get really deep into thought about my outfits. Because here's the thing. You can't just, if you really want to wear a good outfit, there's no way you're just going to your closet and picking everything first try. Mm-hmm. You know, especially if you want to wear something that you're like, ooh, people are going to like this one, you know? I probably go through like 3 shirts for like our fancy like dinners, you know?
Sometimes I tell you what to wear.
Well, you don't tell me what to wear. It's just more that like you'll have a dress that you have in mind for yourself. And so I have to base my outfit off of you.
That sounds really mean, but I
do
that.
It's not like it's a bad thing. It's just more that like, or, you know, sometimes there's times where I'm like, well, I'm going to wear like an orange shirt and, you know, jeans.
And I'm like, no, you're not wearing that.
No, as in like, then you'll try to match me.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was saying.
That's true. Anyway, if you guys couldn't tell, I am trying to do some double entendre action here, some symbolism here with the pondering. Because today we're going to be talking about deep, meaningful questions and whether or not we dwell on them long enough and whether or not we try to give these simplified, watered down answers. So it's interesting that you said, sometimes I have to go through 3 shirts to pick the one that I want, because sometimes we have to go through different answers and different philosophies to discover what we actually believe. Wasn't that so good?
You really ate.
Thank you. Okay, it's not that deep. I was trying so hard. So let's scratch that. Let's dive into it. So to be completely honest, we both came into the studio today and we've had a really long couple of weeks. We've talked about this before, but sometimes you just go through creator burnout and you're like, I want to be authentic. And I feel like all of our topics have been authentic. And we were just like, what are we going to talk about today? And something I've been thinking about recently is I've been seeing on social media a lot of, I'm in like theology TikTok and theology Instagram Reels right now, meaning like every single comment section is a theological debate, or, you know, it's like my YouTube channel is like atheist gets crushed by Cliff, by
facts and logic.
By facts and logic and super smart Christian man, and I don't know, that type of clickbait stuff. And I just find it really interesting that people online are asking really good questions. You know, people, especially our age, are turning to the internet to ask their philosophical questions and the meaning of life questions and the identity questions. And we're in an age too of like, you know, everyone's kind of an influencer, and if you have a big platform and you get asked a question, you're going to respond to the question. And I keep seeing people trying to give these like paragraph responses, 1 paragraph response to a super deep, meaningful question. For example, someone might make a video like thanking God, praising God for the good things in their life, like a quick 10-second video, right? And there might be a comment that's like, how can you believe in God when such evil exists? Like, you're so dumb for that. And then immediately all these like comments under it are like, well, bro, have you thought of this? Or what about this? And I just feel like that's a really deep, insightful question. Why does evil exist when God himself is so good? And we're trying to give these quick-witted answers, and ultimately it just comes off as shallow. And I feel like we're not sitting with these questions long enough. So I wanted to talk to you about that and kind of just have a conversation about what it looks like to sit with the mystery of God and what that can do for one's like psyche and well-being.
I think it's really important to make sure that you know, are open about the things that are good in life. I think it just depends, on how you let that out sometimes. Because there definitely is a part of the online community, the online media community, that definitely tries to do that in a way to puff oneself up and, you know, do, as one would call, virtue signaling, as to kind of, you know, you're typing away at ooh, I see everyone posting insert political opinion here,
right,
you know, on their Instagram stories. So I probably should too, even though I don't really know it and I don't really believe in it that much, but everyone else is. So let me do that. And that's not exactly what I'm trying to condone here on this episode. I think it is really important to make sure that it's good to publicly express your opinions and publicly express good opinions and publicly express good stories. I think you just need to watch the way in which you do it, because it might come off like, think about this, right? Like you were saying, someone goes on and says, God is so good and God has been so good to me. Then people are like, oh, why are you saying this? You got to really understand the way you're saying that, because for some people, it might be like, God is blessing me. God is doing this for something that you might not have even... there's a lot of people who are doing that as a means to just tell other people that they're a Christian, rather than actually trying to spread a good message about Christianity. And it might not even be Christianity. It could be like, I woke up today and the universe just chose to give me good vibes and energy. And it's like, okay. But but you post that and everyone's like, what's this dude talking about? So the universe decided to randomly choose this guy as the beacon of good hope. So, yeah.
But that's the thing. People will try to create a debate or some kind of deeper conversation in the comment section, when my thing is we need to be taking these conversations outside of social media. Because for some reason I feel like people are uncomfortable when I sit with someone and I ask them, like, what do you think about this question? I've been thinking about this question for a while. And sometimes I get like I don't know kind of response. And like, it's not, they don't want, it's very obvious that they don't want to go deeper. Like, they're just like, I don't know. Why are you thinking about that?
Yeah.
And of course it's not outright said, but sometimes I feel weird asking those types of questions when I feel like we should be asking them, and we should be asking our friends like the meaning and the value of things. Because that's, I mean, obviously friendships are for joking and for having fun, but also I feel like you should be able to have those deeper conversations with them. And so instead of having those conversations in person, people are turning to like 10-second TikTok videos and trying to get the meaning of life out of them. And I don't know, it's just not working. I feel like people are still confused. They're still not really sure what to believe. And I was watching a guy do a longer YouTube video on this. He was a theologian. And he said, like, our brains are not wired for these 30-second watered down short TikTok responses. We're just not. We're meant to sit and ponder the universe, the world, God and his existence and his goodness. We're meant to like sit in nature and think about why beauty exists and why goodness exists and what all of it means and what you mean and your place in the world. And I mean, I know for me as an anxious person, and other anxious people get like kind of scared of that. There's a really good C.S. Lewis quote that's like, if you want to get far away from God, then be in the noise. Like if you want to be close to God, sit in the silence. And I just think we're so uncomfortable with that. We want immediate, short, internet answers. And the idea of sitting with a really deep, theological, meaningful question is scary.
I think it is a really good point you bring up, because it is really, really, really easy as a person going through a tough time to look to like YouTube gaming and like TikTok lives as a way to get you through a tough time. And hey, if that's your way to relax, I'm not pushing that down. I watch Corey Kenshin in my spare time most of the time, all of the time.
That's true.
So I'm not here to denounce you watching YouTube as a way to relax, but I think it's when you use things like YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, celebrities in a movie, you use that as your main crux for what keeps you going and what keeps the serotonin levels in your brain pumped up to 100, when in reality, a lot of that is fast-paced stuff, and people also look at these people like they're idols, when in reality, and this isn't for anything specific, when in reality, a lot of these people you're watching are normal people who mess up every day and fail every day, just like you. So it's like you're looking at people who, it's almost like you're looking at yourself. You're looking at the people around you, but it's not really those people online who are going to make as big of an impact as those you meet every day in your life, because those are the ones actually affecting you physically. If your favorite YouTuber doesn't upload for a month, it is what it is, That's all.
Yeah, and I don't want this to become an episode, because we've done so many episodes on like social media and celebrities, and social media is bad for you. Like, obviously, we all know that. This topic, at least for me, is more centered on like what kind of questions are we asking as people and as a society and as individuals. And this morning, I have been given the advice to read a proverb a day, or to just go through the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 4:23 I was going through this morning. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. And first of all, that's so poetic. I love reading through the Proverbs because of how poetic it is and how like you can visually imagine what's going on. But I just love that picture of life literally flowing like a river out of your heart and into the environment around you. And I think a lot of us need to look at our heart posture. And gosh, there's so many directions we could go in. Like we talk about humility and pride and like your heart posture in that regard, but I'm also thinking about it in the sense of like, what kind of questions is your heart asking about the meaning of life? Because one thing I have noticed is that Gen Z is hitting like this crisis really, really early. I think it's because we're growing up at like a fast forwarded speed with social media, but it's like at 2025, we're asking like, what am I supposed to do with my life? I feel like I'm totally lost. I don't know what to do. I have no direction. We need to figure out like what kind of questions we're asking and sit with those questions. I want to be comfortable not going up to random people, like sitting with people and asking, what do you think about God? How do you perceive this societal issue? What do you think about this evil that's happening? And just have that conversation without it needing to feel like evangelism, or without it needing to feel like one of us is trying to pull each other to the side. I just love the questions that come with being human, and I think we need to allow ourselves to sit with them, because there are so many aspects of God that truly are a mystery. What do you think of that? Of like God himself being so mysterious, and the fact that we are not going to have all of the answers?
That is one of the toughest things about Christianity and believing in God, and I don't have any stats on this. I feel like that's probably the biggest reason why a lot of people are not Christians.
Yeah.
There is so much mystery in the lore behind Christianity and behind God and behind the idea of where did God come from? What is this? Why? So God just was? You know? Oh, where are angels? What is eternity? You know? Those types of questions are questions that unfortunately we will probably never find an answer to at all. Not probably. We're never going to find an answer to that, straight up. Mm-hmm. I mean, there really is no way to ever know that. And I don't think that, we're going to ever be made to understand that. I think those types of things, straight up, are just too complex for our minds to handle. And I think that it is something that's what I will give to non-believers. It is a very hard thing to convince yourself is real. I do believe in God, and I am a Christian, of course. But I can sympathize with those who are like, wow, it's just like, so I'm supposed to believe in this guy who isn't physical, does not physically affect my life, lives on a completely different plane that even if I feel like I have his presence when I pray, I actually can't really prove or disprove that he's real or not. And I have to just believe in him or I'm going to go to hell. It is a tough thing to accept, and I completely understand people. And, that's why I think it's important to hear about everybody's personal life and everyone's, background.
Yeah. But the way you said that was interesting because I think you were also using the simplified language that people use on social media when they're debating this stuff. Some people will come straight at you and be like, oh, so you're saying that if I don't do this, this, and this, God is going to reject me and send me, to hell and this and that. And it's so much deeper than that. The relationship with God that you can foster and the questions that we can ask each other and diving into theology and stuff. I mean, there's different directions we could go in when talking about the afterlife and all of that. But sometimes I think Christians are just too focused on on that idea of where am I going? What does God think of me? And that cycle of anxiety that they forget about the life that they're living now and the fruits of the Spirit that they're showing and the conversations that they should be having, those enriching, life-giving conversations. I don't know. When I was little, I used to really struggle with I think I said this before, but I was the kid that would sit at the table and be like, do you guys know Jesus? And try to pray the prayer with them right there at school. And I didn't even fully understand it, And I think I've come to a place now where I think the best way to evangelize is to show people that you care about them and to ask them what they think, to go into a conversation instead of a lot of pastors or, church people might disagree with me here. But I think it is so much more beneficial to go into a Christian churchy conversation saying, how do you perceive God? What do you think about a life and beauty and goodness? And say that instead of saying, where do you think you're going to go when you're going to die? I think that immediately turns people off. I think people are going to make assumptions about you. And I don't know, for me, it just doesn't feel authentic to begin a conversation like that.
Yeah. Because I feel like a reason a lot of people don't like to start conversations with Christians is because they feel that they're immediately going to be questioned about hell.
Yeah.
Immediately going to be questioned about the afterlife. And in reality, you got to think this way. And this is not me trying to be like, oh, atheists are depraved. That's not what this is about. This is more about a sense of if someone doesn't believe in God, they're not going to care much about going to hell.
Yeah.
It's just it's a common sense thing. I'm not saying that Christians are dumb for not seeing that, but it's it can be an ignorant thing to not understand that if you go up to someone and you're like, well, if you don't believe in God, you're going to go to hell, or do you believe you're going to go to heaven or hell if you were to die right now? It's that person is well, I don't really believe in it, so, what's the point? I think opening up a conversation first is the most important thing, and then once you get to the details, you cannot just skip over the heaven and hell stuff. That's pretty big, if you ask me. That's pretty important. But at the same time, most, like, I assure you, like 70% of people, if you were to ask them, like, so you know that if you're not a Christian, you're gonna go to hell, and you're like, what? And they're, you know, like, what do you think about that? Like, they're probably gonna say, okay, goodbye, you know? And it's like, on one hand, well, I think some people, it works for them. They can do that. They have that type of just, you know, courage where they can do that type of stuff. But it doesn't always work on people. And I think, you know, a lot of evangelists and people are telling young people to do this, and they do it, and they are not getting those TikTok bait responses of like, man, I've been struggling for so many years. They're getting people who are like, don't talk to me. Right. I don't want to hear about this. And a lot of people don't want to evangelize because realistically, 90% of evangelism is people telling you no. That's just the truth, you know? There's a lot of people, and I know from, you know, my father used to do street evangelism. We used to go out and like a lot of people just not, you know, advance the conversation at all. And that's like 90% of the job, you know? It's like cops say, right? You know, 90% of the job as a cop is just sitting in a car and waiting. You know, not that cops are, you know, whatever. It's just more of a sense of, it's like that like TV show car chase scene is like 5% of the time, you know? That's not happening day to day. You know, they'll tell you it's a lot of paperwork, you know? And I think that's the same thing with evangelism. Most evangelism and most type of people who go evangelizing are not getting those TikTok-worthy responses of someone who like just, and there's a lot of times where that does happen, where they get a person who really just lets out the floodgates and starts crying and really telling them about their history and their story. But like 90% of the time, they're getting, no, I don't want to talk to you. And that's just the truth about evangelism. Does it mean don't do evangelism? Does it mean don't have courage? No, but have some common sense that not everyone that you are going to talk to is going to want to talk about God after you tell them that they're going to go to hell or you scare them with hell, you know? Because you've got to think about it this way. An atheist doesn't believe in God, so they don't believe in heaven or hell. That's the problem. So no, they're going to be like, well, I don't think I'm going to heaven or hell because I don't believe in it. Oh!
I know. I just think it's so interesting that is the talking point. Like, that is what people have chosen to go in with conversations and immediately begin fear-mongering. And I've had a lot of really bad experiences like that. And I have been that person at one point. And there is so much more love and respect from both parties and, like, meaningful dialogue and meaningful relationship when you go into relationship with someone and you literally do life with them and you walk alongside them and you sit there and you listen to them and you give them your opinions and you exchange ideas. I think that's where evangelism really has a chance to grow and really has a chance to like shine and do its thing, because people are going to, there's a Donald Miller quote from the book Blue Like Jazz. He says something like, people who are passionate, people want someone to follow, and they're going to follow passionate people. So I think if you can express like your personhood and your authentic humanity, people are going to be interested in what you're passionate about. Yeah. So I don't know. I love talking about God. Like, it's seriously one of my favorite subjects to talk about. And I'm not even talking about trying to...
There's so much there.
There's so much. I'm not even talking about trying to convince someone all the time. I just love talking about it and being like, sometimes I sit and think about what God did about this situation, or the way God worked in this way, or what do you think about this question? It's just one of my favorite subjects. And sometimes I feel really alone in that. I don't know. Maybe it's an introvert thing. I don't know. Maybe people, like, I'm sure there's a ton of people out there like that. And I don't know. I just wish it was more acceptable and comfortable to ponder questions together in relationship rather than trying to shut each other down or trying to do these shallow quick fix arguments. You know?
Because I think that, while I understand that, you know, asking someone if they think they're going to go to heaven, if they were to die now, is a good zinger and can be an interesting thing to get someone into, because, you know, you might catch that person who is like, they grew up a Christian, but kind of just stopped going to church and now are kind of just in like a weird area where they like don't really know. Honestly, you can give the best example of Jesus, of God, without even having to talk about Christianity. Half of the God that a person sees in you simply comes from just your demeanor and your natural conversation with that person.
Your actions.
You know, I think there's a lot of people who see it as like, oh, well, this person's a Christian and they're the only they pick me up from work. You know, they're the only person that has donated to my GoFundMe page. You know, like they're the only person that calls me at night. You know, they actively reach out to me to hang out. You know. And this is a person who believes in God, you know, maybe that's something that I could check out. And I also understand that some part of it is like, this might be the only person. One thing that, you know, I've heard from some people is that why some people are so forward, you know, especially with like street evangelism, and I'll keep this brief, is because they feel this might be the only time they might ever hear about it again. You know, you have someone who is going through serious issues, you know, maybe withdrawal, they're homeless, they're on drugs or whatever. You talking to them in their home, like homeless, like on the street, you telling them about God, that might literally be the last conversation they have with anybody. And they might not have the opportunity to hear about God ever again, and they might never have had that opportunity. So I understand that it's very important. But I think on your average interaction, I think it can be really dangerous to always constantly bring up heaven and hell. So yeah.
No, yeah, I see that. I can see, even though street evangelists have kind of frustrated me in a lot of situations, I do understand like time and place, and that might sound controversial, but like genuinely, I do think even when it comes to like legalistic churches and things that now as more mature Christians we can look back on and be like, oh, that is not the way to do it. Sometimes people start out in those situations, and sometimes, you know, I went to a church, the church that I went to for years was pretty legalistic, especially looking back and how people acted as a community. It's just not something that I would want to replicate or go to another church like that. But the area that I was in like a really deep part of the city that I was in at the time. And there were a lot of alcoholics coming in. There were a lot of drug addicts coming in. And I honestly think that like the legalism kind of helped them to get off of their addictions and to find Christ and to start living better lives. I think you can start in places like that and it could be good for a season, but I do think eventually you have to move. And as you mature, like naturally you will understand, and I think as you grow closer to the heart of God, like you'll be able to spot legalism more easily, and you'll be able to feel conviction more easily and kind of mature in that way. Now that we're in better places, like we can see that we don't want to be there and we don't want to replicate that. And I think that's a beautiful part of maturing in your faith. So the last thing I kind of want to say is just, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but there is so much beauty in having these deep questions. If you have deep questions that you don't have answers for, that's a good thing. It means your brain is functioning normally. It means you're not like super brain rotted and haven't burned out all your brain cells on TikTok, because you are still thinking deeply and having space for those meaningful philosophical topics. God is mysterious, and I think that is a beautiful thing. And I think people don't realize that mystery exists in every area of life. And if we knew every single answer to absolutely everything, there wouldn't be a need for like scientific researchers, because we'd already know everything, you know? So I think that mystery and beauty actually keeps us searching and is a really special thing. And also that's what faith is, right? Faith is belief in what we can't see. So without seeing, like, we can have faith. And I think that's a special thing. So I don't know. The point of this episode was to get you guys thinking about the questions on your mind. Bring them to your friends, like bring them to people in your life. Talk about it. Get in groups and literally talk for hours over tea, over fires, about what is on your mind and what sets your heart on fire and what your mind just like goes to, you know?
Or bring them to us in the comment section.
Or do that. Actually, that would be great. Well. That would be great. But do you have any closing thoughts?
No. Just keep asking some questions. Keep asking your friends. Keep asking your mom, your dad, your best friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever. And maybe ask us too. In the description of this video on YouTube, you can also subscribe and like.
Please subscribe. We're
Yes.
building a YouTube platform.
You can find me at its_DNEYL.
And me at Carina_B04. And you can find our podcast Instagram at _introvert_city. We're also on Facebook and TikTok, so you can interact with us on any platform.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys so very much, and we have some really exciting upcoming guests and topics, so don't go anywhere.
Don't. Stay there.
Stay where you are.
Stay.
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 Okay, bye, homebodies.